Mr. Miklos?
Sorry, Mayor. I just wanted to make sure, can someone at least show a map of the streets? And then I have a quick explanation, and City Manager, that you and I have talked to, that the people in those neighborhoods are going to want to know, just so that they...
Sure. We're calling up the map.
Just
right
the map.
Now.
You don't even need to get up there, unless
Chris,
you want to, Matt.
Chris has it up there.
That's
Okay.
good.
So Skyline Rugal neighborhood, and a whole lot of the streets that people in that neighborhood have been talking about and asking me if they're going to get fixed. I don't know if it's showing up on the TV screen or not.
Chris is the next one, I believe.
Is there a list?
The list was in a packet. It is not up on this street, but
I can't read any of it anyway. It's too small.
Chris, it should have been the second attachment on that one. Number 14. There we go.
So I love the map. Chris, if you have that list, if you could read off that list, and then there are a couple of streets that are waiting on further activity. For example, Mount Vernon waits on, it's not scheduled first.
Matt, I've got it.
But what it is it's scheduled after utility work gets to it, and then we get to it. So it's not delayed for any reason other than the practical need to get utility work underneath Mount Vernon. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir. I can read the names of
Yes,
the
please.
streets in this project that are not going to be done and the reason why. So
How about reading the streets that are going to be done?
that's
so
a long
people are
list.
happy?
That's a full-page list, but I can read them if you want.
Yes, please.
Allegheny, Appalachia, Bitterroot, Bluefield, Bridger, Camp David, Catskill, Choctaw, Colby, Falls Church, Hastings, Hermitage, James Edwards, Kenneth Hopper, Laramie, Lucille, Mahan, Meadowbrook, Meadowcrest, Portsmouth, Potomac, Rocky, Shadewell, Springbrook, Sybil, Timberview, Warm Springs, Wichita, Woodlawn, and Yorktown. Fernwood from Springwood to Monticello, Mount Vernon from Sybil to Monticello, Monticello from Sybil to South Parkway, and Golden Grove from Town East Boulevard to Choctaw. These are streets that have utilities that are identified of having issues, and these streets will be included in a separate project in order to address the repairs of the utilities and the paving. We expect that work to begin in October of 2021.
And so those projects aren't delayed for any other reason other than you've got to get the utility work adjacent to them fixed and ready so that then you can do that. Golden Grove, Mount Vernon in particular. I think Mount Vernon needs Sybil to get done, and then it gets done, and then Monticello, that whole distance, those sections could get done because of that, practically, right?
Correct.
Is that right, Matt? Okay.
And then Sybil, from Mount Vernon to Lucille, it is a street that has an existing asphalt overlay, and that would be better performed under a different contractor, and we're expecting the project to start in March of 2021.
Well, and I appreciate that. Well, I just want to say that for those of y'all in other parts of town or other parts of the district that I represent, this is just that neighborhood. So this isn't the exhaustive list for the entire city. This is just for that neighborhood, and a whole lot of that neighborhood, as you can see up in those red streets, a whole lot of that neighborhood's going to get new streets, repaired streets. This is huge for that neighborhood, and they've been waiting a whole long time for that. And I walked, I don't know if there's any street I didn't walk during the campaign. And the number one thing, I had a woman in a lady in Choctaw say, please, 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 I think like 20 pleases. Please fix Choctaw. So, ma'am, it's getting fixed. Here you go. And Sybil and Monticello and Mount Vernon and Lucille and Warm Springs and Camp David, and I could just go on and on and on. I'm super happy about this. The streets need to be fixed. They need to be repaired. And kudos to city staff, and let's get going. And for the people in other neighborhoods that need Clary fixed and Rollingwood Hills that need the eastern portion of those streets fixed. We're coming there as well. This is just for the Skyline Rugal. We're not waiting on y'all either. We're going to get y'all coming up here soon. And for my own neighborhood, where Hollow Bend is just falling apart, we're getting to that as well. And in the Blackwood Park neighborhood, we got a whole bunch of streets, Edgebrook, everything out there. We're getting a bunch of those streets fixed as well. So I just thank you very much for city staff for getting on this, and I think we've got people out there, something to look forward to.
Council, with this project, we've evaluated our community education and feel that a list is needed instead of maps. Sometimes the maps don't tell the whole story. So we are preparing a list starting with this project to identify all of the streets that are remaining that are RTR, Real Texas Roads eligible, and an explanation on why some of those roads are towards the end of the project, either due to their rating on our listing or due to utilities, or if there's a special contract involved. Some streets, it depends on how we are going to repair the street, depends on which contractor we use and which contract. So it's a big moving target, but we feel a list that you can refer citizens to that can show them approximate dates and why the streets haven't been fixed yet.
Councilman Burris?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to say that a lot of those streets that our city manager just read out are also in District 4. They're the streets right along Lanny Frazier, and I'm really proud to see that area is getting some work. Also, I know we've worked over in Valley View Heights, which had some streets that were just terrible. We haven't been able to get to all of them, but we have done a great job on the ones that we have gotten to so far, and I look forward to, at a later date, getting the rest of those streets done, and I'm pleased to have another section in District 4 being taken care of.
Well, Councilman, Lord willing, whenever we get ready to celebrate the opening of that wonderful new fire station over there, if you and the council are agreeable, we'll have a little celebration for that and those new streets in Valley View Heights. Again, a section of our town where if you went through there just 4 or 5 years ago, you would have thought, my God, I'm in a third world country. It was so bad over there. And there's still 2 or 3 streets over there that we need to get to that are still struggling. But not only have we, made some real changes on several streets over there that were very difficult to navigate and go through, but people have reinvested greatly. You can see several homes that have been gutted and rebuilt. There's one, I can't think of the name of the street, but it's on the corner. It's just a beautiful, brand new house that the old one, where there was prostitution and crime and problems for years there, is gone and built a brand new, gorgeous house there. So I just say that to say that while we certainly have challenges in all of our first neighborhoods, we are seeing progress bit by bit by bit, and Valley View Heights is just one example of that. And so I'm very excited and share your excitement about that. And one thing I want to share also with regard, I'll get to you in just a second, Mr. Green. This brings up a subject that I've been talking about for a long time, and that is we've got to do a better job for our citizens in explaining the hows and the why and how we go about figuring out what and when we're going to fix when it comes to our streets and alleys and infrastructure. And again, it's not because no one's doing a good job. It's just, it's a big, complex system. And I think it's time, and before COVID, we were working on preparing for a citywide town hall meeting. And it will be a little painful because we'll get griped at, but that's okay because that's what we do. We listen to people. But we need to once and for all explain to our citizens, and I want it to be, for those who can't be here in person, put all over the place so we can explain, for example, what our processes are and what our strategy is in terms of, which neighborhood we're getting to next when it comes to the street bond program. And what we're doing for non-street bond repairs and what the strategy. And people just need to be able to know if it's going to take a year and a half, let's tell them why it's going to take a year and a half, like we just heard about a while ago. I think a lot of our residents will be understanding if we just shoot straight with them and tell them the whole truth and what's going on versus just feeling frustrated, wondering when will my neighborhood ever be gotten to versus an occasional patch and fill. And some of that's just, it's hard. We are in an older suburb that we've been working so hard to clean up, and now the budget's even be a bigger challenge for us. But when you level with people, you tell them what the plan is and that we're trying to get to them, I think most people appreciate that and value that. So I just needed to get that off my heart. Councilman Green, please.
Yeah,
Thank you for
so,
waiting.
yeah, my question is just on one of the roads up there. And I'm definitely not saying it doesn't need to be done. Just wasn't Farley like the first street we did as part of the project? I'm just kind of curious why we're redoing that road so quickly, and are we having to pay for that again, or is it still warranted?
Well, the Farley was the initial test road to determine if this process, the overlay process, and we only did a portion of Farley. I believe Farley's not on this list, and it's. Go ahead, Matt.
Matt Holzapfel, Director of Public Works, and indeed Farley was one of the first streets. It was actually kind of a pilot program for the optimized concrete overlay process. We've looked at Farley. When we go into a neighborhood, as you can see, we look at every single street in that neighborhood, whether they're a grade 4 or a higher grade in better shape. Farley, generally, the optimized pavement is doing real well, but there's some alley intersections that have problems. And if you recall the engineering report that the council initiated, it came back with that recommendation because they did see that failure pattern at street intersections and alley intersections. And indeed, when we look at Farley, which was the first street we did in the program, basically just will it even work type of pilot program, we have seen a little bit of failure right at one of the alley intersections. So there is a very small piece of Farley that will be doing some remediation right there to bring that up to a grade 1 again. So.
Okay, and that was my concern. I just want to make sure that we weren't, throwing more money at the same streets, because, we only have a certain amount of money to spend, so I'd hate to see us have to go back and pay for something all over again that should have been done right initially. So.
Farley is being touched, but very little additional work there, sir.
Okay, and that was my question. I just saw it in red, and there's no really explanation, so I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I remember being a brand-new council member going with the council at the time in 2014 to go look at that street after we had just done that pilot program over there, so time flies quickly.